Okay, so in one of my efforts, one of the things I asked this morning, I said, let's put a face on United Way in our community. How can we do that this morning? So I want to introduce a keynote speaker this morning. She's been a resident of Central Oregon for the last 20 years. She's currently the benefits administrator for Ben Memorial Clinic. Has done that role for the last 7. I think she said her role's growing and expanding. She's done the United Way Workplace Campaign Chair last 2 years at BMC. She has a real passion, to fight against hunger. And I want to say first off, thank you for having the courage to share your story and show how United Way makes a difference in our community. But everyone, please join me in welcoming Jamie Bennett.
If my voice is a little crackly at first, that's pretty normal even when I'm at work talking to all my dogs. So, as it was said, I'm very proud to be part of the BMC family as their benefits administrator. It is expanding ever so greatly, as is the need in our community for those who need shelter, food, and all the basic needs. Vito and Ken, I want to thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be the speaker. As the theme of the campaign is Give Today, Change Tomorrow, my presentation is to encourage you to raise awareness, inspire hope, and action that will create a lasting change for Central Oregonians. Hope can be given, and action through the United Way agencies that will greatly benefit from your generous donations. Though my message will touch on one need in our community, and that is the fight against hunger. As you listen, remember, when we reach out a hand to one, we influence the condition of all. My message is a reflection to be grateful, to consider others whose journey through our world is less fortunate, and to make a difference because you can. First, stop and think about the home you live in that shelters you. The provision of access to clean running water for vitality of life and basic hygiene needs. Your kitchen with refrigeration for food, a stove and an oven to cook with. The food that may be before you, and the food you will have later today. Think about all the necessities you have to live right now that are your immediate availability. And stop for a moment to think of those who do not. I'm going a little bit ahead, so give me just a moment here. My fingers get a little excited for the... I am the face of hunger. Looking at me, would you think at one time in my life I faced a struggle with hunger? Many may have a similar story of their own, or know someone who has experienced hunger. I hope today, by telling you what inspired me to tell my story and what you learned from it, that you will find a way to make a difference for someone in our community in their struggle against hunger. Many organizations providing food aid need your help more than ever as individuals in our community, nation, and worldwide continue to face hunger. The statistics from Feeding America advise us 1 in 5 children face hunger, and 1 in 6 Americans, 49 million, does not have enough access to food. The food insecurity rate in Oregon is at 17.9%. That is 694,050 Oregonians dealing with food insecurity. My inspiration came January 2009 when Dr. Randall Jacobs was sending the Ben Memorial Clinic staffs of his journey to Uganda with the UN Refugee Agency and Medical Teams International. Dr. Jacobs is an inspiration to many of us in the Ben community, as he will selflessly give of his time as a physician to assist those in need of medical care, whether it is locally at a shelter, the Shepherd's House, or traveling to a remote area of Africa. His emails and photos from the trip struck a particular emotion in me in seeing the struggles being experienced by the citizens of Uganda and refugees arriving from turmoil in Congo. I couldn't help but forward several of his photos and journal entries to friends and family, and adding my own statements for inspiration and thought. January 16th, 2009, as we drove to our site, noticed about 50 people just dropped off by UN trucks in the bush for resettlement. Just there in a crowd without significant support, just a tarp, plastic jerry can, pot, hoe, and little food. The next step of moving out into bush to set up their shelters. Very short of water and food. We don't even have enough water for our clinic and patients. Sharing water and food with staff and water with patients. Unbelievable. Thought. We find ourselves frustrated about waiting too long in the grocery line after work, or maybe for the morning latte. January 20th, 2009, because it's so late last night, we drove some patients and Jerome, my Congolese interpreter, back to their shelters. He literally lives in the dirt under a tarp. Broke my heart as I can better understand his hopelessness and despair, living in a strange country without any resources for his family. We all should be so thankful for what we have to survive and enjoy. And hopefully our nation will be even more generous to the third world in the new administration. Blessings to all. Thanks again for all the support, prayers, and encouragement. They sustain us. Thought. We complain our homes may not have the hardwood floors, the granite countertops, or maybe that new white screen TV. January 29th, 2009, I delivered a healthy girl, first in 20 years. Felt so natural, just like I never stopped doing deliveries. Very rewarding, excellent outcome, just very messy, as we have no drapes or cloths, delivered on the 10th floor. Should have seen my pants. They've been soaking in soap and water all night. Jasper, our UG director and clinical officer, starts and ends each day with a prayer with our staff. Today he prayed for President Obama, for his wisdom, protection, and godliness, thanking God that he was elected because of his will. He also prayed for our nation, our safety, and our provision, for the recovery of our economy, that we might once again enjoy the benefits that God has provided us. Amazing perspective for those here who by comparison have so little. As I arrived home that evening, I was reflecting my thoughts and emails of the photos Dr. Jacobs had sent. I thought about my latest frustrations at work and in seeking happiness in my personal life. Looking at the jar of white beans on my kitchen counter, it reminded me why I put them there. They were the reminder. So on a day like this, I am frustrated, maybe a little unhappy. Still, how truly blessed I was. My home is not fancy by comparison of other homes, but it is home, affording me with comforts many do not have in our world. I continue to reflect how very blessed I am to be living in beautiful Bend, Oregon, and blessed to be living in the United States of America with an abundant access to shelter and food, and as a woman, education and freedom. To not forget again, I wrote down my story to someday share and inspire. It was the fall of 1975, and I was 11 years old. I was being raised in a town north of Los Angeles that if you asked the residents, many of them would refer to it as Mayberry. Everyone, it seemed, was at Friday night high school football games, church on Sunday, and at this time in our world, we had the innocence as children, without the worry of harm, in riding bikes to the local hamburger spot to grab an ice cream as we would journey to and from the town swimming pool on a hot summer day. Times were different then in many ways. I do not recall food banks in our town. I do not remember free lunches being provided for children of low income at school. But I began to know that my life was changing and food becoming more insecure in our home. My father had died August of 1970, leaving my mother with 6 children to raise from the ages of 13 to 4, 3 boys and 3 girls. Even though we had the same type of house as everyone else, the green shag carpet and all, we were the farthest thing from the Brady Bunch life portrayed on TV. We had income with my father's Social Security and pension. We always had our home, food on the table, the summer trips to Oregon to see their grandparents, and the occasional trips to Disneyland and the California beaches for vacation. There were no fears, so I thought. But that spring of 1975, I started to notice changes. There was no milk with dinner most of the time, after-school snacks were not every day, and my lunch was getting smaller as weeks progressed. Knowing something was happening, but I didn't feel I could ask why, I decided to tell my mother when I started the 6th grade, if I asked for the task of washing down the lower grade students' lunch tables, I would get a free lunch. Classmates would know I was in need if I was washing the tables for the free lunch. Having grown up with these kids since kindergarten, I did not face the normal taunting or asking of why. My memory is that of only kindness and understanding from them. On this day, I had eaten a breakfast of pancakes. There was no orange juice or milk. My mother had asked me to get my brother a lunch ticket at the school office, telling them she would pay them at the end of the week when she got paid, asking, "Are we out of food?" No answer, but a look of worry on her face. That evening, my mother called us 5 kids who were still at home to the table for dinner. The table was set as for any other weeknight dinner, but the only thing on the table was a pot of beans. My twin sisters were 17, one asking in a disappointed tone as she approached, "What is that?" As my mother nervously replied, "White beans, that is all we have for dinner." With worry in her voice, she asked us to sit, saying there was enough for 2 scoops for each of us. As a religious woman, a strong belief, she said a prayer for a blessing, an immediate blessing. The questions began why, then with strong reluctance to each of the older ones, they left the table. My younger brother and I remained, telling her we weren't hungry, as if we were ashamed to have for dinner the only food we had. Then in so many words again, the questions of how and why there was no longer food in our home. What will we eat for breakfast? Tears were in my mother's eyes as she was grieving again, but this time she had no answer. It was about a half hour later. There was a knock at the door. It was a woman from church. She had said when she stopped by yesterday, and upon review of what my brother was cooking to create dinner, she had concern for the lack of food in our home. She stated knowing our survivor benefits gave us too much of an income for food stamp assistance, but not enough to live on. She had told her husband they needed to help. She called his kids to head to her station wagon. We all remember what those are, right? Okay. And in the back of her car were bags and bags of groceries, and on the second row seat too. My younger brother and I became elated as we spotted a box of Hostess ding dongs, a forbidden item on grocery lists by moms during this time, including my own. She said, "My husband said to spend $75, but I spent $100. There were so many groceries, the brown paper bags covered our kitchen floor and table. Even though in the years to come, my family experienced more struggles financially with the absence of my father. The older kids say they don't remember or don't want to. But I didn't forget the kindness of this individual and how her blessing personally affected me. Later in early adult life, and dealing with the normal frustrations that hit us in our 30s, I decided to place the jar of white beans on my kitchen counter, the same amount my mother served that evening. To remember each day that no matter how hard or frustrating life may be, or if life's dreams not coming to realization, still how truly blessed I was. Some blessings will arrive right away, others will not. My family was very fortunate. Our blessing did arrive just in time back in 1975. But today, there are still many in our community who are waiting for a knock at their door. And many in our community who need your help in their struggle not only against hunger, but poverty. And to think, if we try, we can change our community and our world. I encourage you to place a jar of white beans where it inspires you most. To remember to be grateful for how truly blessed you are, for what you do have and what could be. And to not forget, there is someone right here in Central Oregon that would be grateful to have white beans for dinner. Thank you.